on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my party spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen. Make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we're gonna make.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of All Time High. I am here with Deanna today. Deanna, how are things?
Hey, things are going great. You know, another good day in crypto. Well, almost. Actually, I'm wearing red because we're bleeding. We're bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, it's a rough weekend. This weekend was a tough one, running around in the corner. But so let's just, jump right into our tracking. I used to think it was tracking us to an all-time high, but the first number you look at on this screen is the one over here on the right-hand side. We are pretty darn neutral.
Yeah. I mean, is it really surprising? I think the world is waiting to see a lot of things that happen. People look at this as, hey, it's a drop. I mean, could be cheaper Bitcoin for those of you who want to buy more. Now you just save $5,000 on it.
Not financial advice. Do your own research. And right now, if you're just kind of listening to us for the first time, go ahead and subscribe and like. It's a great way to wake up the YouTube algorithm, help us get more like-minded followers and people interested in the space. Deanna, one of the things that I'm not a technical guy, I'm not a chart guy. I look at them all the time, but they're saying we're in this no person's land at a 702 Fibonacci retracement. As we bump along, nobody knows. This is the moment of truth, kind of like the neutrality on the fear and greed index. It's either going to bump significantly higher or drop significantly lower. We're kind of waiting for a catalyst to happen. Do you have any ideas or what might be out there that's going to shake this tree one way or the other?
Oh, there's all kinds of things. There's so many things that interject with the economy that, the one thing we could say is Bitcoin and the dollar have a direct correlation. And I'm sure we'll do a whole nother episode on how those relate on each other. But you got to think world politics. You got to think U.S. policy, right? And so the thing that we were just talking about, that actually could be something that propels it forward, considering on how that whole summit turns out.
That whole summit. And this is actually something where I believe truth is stranger than fiction. You'll see at the end of this episode, as I take us full circle on the journey that you and I have talked a little bit about, but I want to share with our listeners today. Is it okay if I'm going to go ahead and pull up the tweet that I believe started a change in the conversation? Now, we've talked earlier about Trump has made crypto an issue with voters. And our goal, my goal at least, is to make sure that this is not a party line issue, that we're going to have Republicans and Democrats interested. And I think Cuban kind of got things going here. I've said many times that Biden has to choose between Gensler or crypto voters, or it could cost him the White House.
Yeah. Get him, Mark. Get him.
Yeah. And that was about a week ago. And lo and behold, things start to happen. Did you check out that we are now going to have a blockchain summit?
I did. Yeah, I did. And it's, I'm happy to see it moving forward. You think this is $1 trillion? We're moving to a $3 trillion industry that the U.S. just isn't capitalizing on. So I'm excited to see this summit. And it's in July, right? Is that when?
It is. I believe it's July 17th. This was literally leaked out this morning from a 17th congressional district in California. They are actually going to host the Bitcoin and blockchain roundtable in early July. Now it's going to occur in Washington, D.C. They've talked about Trump's pledging to end Joe Biden's war on crypto. And in the, kind of takeaway, it escalated the conversation because the Biden administration is now in talks. And this has been one of my goals too, is Trump is accepting donations in crypto. I think it only makes sense that Biden do the same thing. And I am kind of like Coinbase here because it's Coinbase Commerce that's providing that opportunity. I do hope that the Democrats take him up on that. I checked last night. It isn't in place right now, but I'm optimistic that this issue can be not on one side of the aisle, rather it would be on both sides.
Yeah, God, Biden's just a dinosaur, right? He's so old that I don't even think he understands what crypto is. He probably can't even comprehend. At this point, maybe back in the day, he really understood. I think it's a huge mistake on his part to not already be accepting crypto because California is a huge base for him, right?
Look,
California's got a lot of
I'm
crypto
gonna break
people.
it down to the baseline.
Yeah.
I think you said what you just said could be either candidate. I think what you have to have is advisors that provide you with better information that helps you elevate your conversation. And I think that certain candidates do have advisors that might be interested in this space,
Yep.
but that right now, one side of the aisle, those advisors were able to break through.
Yeah.
And now the other side of the aisle is getting to look at it more carefully, consider it more intelligently, start to have dialogue about that. And now
Yeah.
it pains me because in the end of the day, I want the all-time high to grow well past 3 trillion into 10 trillion. And we're kind of stuck now in this 2.5, 2.6 trillion. And it's in part because it seems to have been pushed into this making it a single voter issue, right?
Yeah.
Are you with me or against me? And I don't think that secular competition is going to function well in a financial space where the world is already playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to wonder, like, the hesitation has to be the fact that they can't control it, right? Like, where do they, how do they extract like value from a currency that they can't manipulate or that they can't distribute or that they can't? So the fact that Bitcoin is free of government, I think, has just scared the U.S. because that lack of control, and them pushing the CBDC and bashing Bitcoin, I think, just tells you, you know what I mean? Bitcoin was, I don't want to say superior technology, but it was a prototype that no other has really come close to touching. And it's not that it solves everything, but it solves the fact that it's a currency free of government. And when you start to see government afraid and shy away and talking about how they can have their own superior cryptocurrency, I think it gives validity to the technology and thus kind of propels Bitcoin above, because we all want money free of government. We're kind of tired of government ruining our cash flow.
Well, I don't think they're going to. It's up. They can tax it into oblivion.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so I don't think the government is out of the equation. I know there's peer-to-peer transactions, and I know other cryptocurrencies provide that
Yep.
capability. I
Yeah.
mean, I think at the end of the day, even though you're talking about Bitcoin and CBDC, the thing that it seems like to me the government's trying to take away is cash.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they'll ever truly take away cash, because unlike crypto, cash can't be traced ever. You don't know.
That's my
I
point.
give you $1, nobody would
That-
ever know I gave you $1.
And isn't crypto more than anything, especially written on the blockchain for anyone to see forevermore, imminently traceable? Isn't that the irony? I mean, if you can source back to whoever the person's cryptographic keys belong to,
Yep.
you then can see literally every transaction that they've ever completed.
Yeah. Yeah. You can also, the bigger institutions, they have flags for accounts. If you can trace crypto that came from a flagged account, you know what I mean? You know that that's tainted crypto. And so there's a lot of these things that are already in place that I think are they just beat out the dollar. So they say that they're going to run them in parallel. So they're not just going to like erase dollars and then introduce crypto, but they are going to run them at the same time. And maybe you start to see cash fall off, but it's, again, you can't have money laundering without dollars.
You really can't. And I'm looking across the, I guess, Pacific Ocean into another country that we're not going to say today, or at least I'm going to try not to, that starts with a C, and they've issued their digital yuan.
Yep.
And yeah, sure, people got started in this regard with things like Alipay and WeChat, or the different financial transactions that people can make on their phones. And now they've basically moved away from cash, and they're able to track all the activity that occurs. Again, that I think is the great irony between the CBDCs and, let's say, Bitcoin, right? Which effectively is the countries issuing currency that's imminently traceable because the transactions are being recorded for each and every individual. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's completely fair. And when you start we're talking about politics, right? We're talking about the U.S.
I know. And when we started this, we said we weren't going to, but it's inevitable right now because it is such a focal point. So,
well, I mean,
we've
it
adjusted.
determines how Bitcoin moves, right? Policies say whether or not markets are going to increase or decrease based off of what. In fact, that thing that you just pulled up, did you happen to notice in there that it says that Biden is proposing a 30% tax for Bitcoin miners?
Yeah. Do you know what it's on? Electricity.
I know. I know. That just
Well, and
it just
don't
shows
get me,
doesn't
you and I
know,
may
right?
disagree on this one.
Why?
You've, well, let's see if we do. I don't want to anticipate. That's not fair.
Go ahead.
What I will say is this: if you've seen the miners at work, you know that there's huge electrical pull on that. And
Sure.
so this idea that it's some kind of ESG sustainable energy thing, I'm just not buying how that's being sold. I'm
Really?
sorry.
Really?
I'm sorry. It's pulling on the electrical grid. Those things are
Yeah, they're massive. Oh, and by the
they're
way,
massive.
it's not just Bitcoin, AI
I'm
data
not saying it's
centers.
Bitcoin
No, but I'm saying like AI data centers. So we're moving to a society of heavy compute. Period. Between
for
AI,
sure.
crypto,
Yeah.
computers are verifying our transactions. They're making things right. So like all this compute is a lot. One of the things, especially in Texas, for the Bitcoin miners, they actually, when we have problems with the power grid, they can shut down and push power back to us.
I know, but when it's 108 degrees, which it gets to here, and it has, and that was the issue a year ago. I don't even, you know how much money I mean, the capitalism at work there is outrageous. So let's just say they took up 10% of the grid. Is that a fair assumption?
Sure, sure.
And they're saying, okay, when it gets really, really hot, we'll shut it down. But they also negotiated a deal with the state that says we're going to get paid a really, really lot. And here's my problem. Unlike the blockchain where it's verifiable, immutable, you can see it forever. You don't even have a reporting mechanism other than self-reported to let the government or whatever agency is supposed to have jurisdiction over this agreement that they actually did shut down. So without a way to intelligently know if they're shutting down, and other than Deanna saying, hey, Deanna, you shut down your Bitcoin mining. And it's not just Bitcoin miners. Look, you said it well. We talk about AI, blockchain, and crypto. I want to say this: because people sleep, there is an inherent advantage that AI has. They're going to take and run those computers overnight for 8 hours to do the financial analysis or to replace that first year law student who doesn't write so well, but the AI has been trained as a learning language model to provide better communication skills based on what this more senior attorney said. They want to do the AI things that allow you to get the programming code developed more completely while humans sleep. Yes, this compute thing is going to happen overnight, and there's no sleep till Brooklyn. I'm going to just cut to a Beastie Boys song. That's all I got.
Yeah, but you're also just assuming that it's electricity, right? I mean, you have gas, you have solar, you have wind, you have many different types of resources here in Texas, which is what made it so attractive for Bitcoin miners to begin with. And so when you start seeing like these excessive taxes thrown on there, you're kind of inhibiting the
Of
okay.
course.
For example, New York. Why does Texas have the most hashing power of Bitcoin? Because both the C word and New York shut down miners. And
Yeah.
Governor Abbott said, come to Texas.
Come on.
So now Texas has the highest, right? So when you make laws that are favorable, you see businesses move. And when you make laws that are not favorable, you see businesses leave. And so here's where I want to go back to about the all-time high
Sure.
and how I think policy is going to directly affect that. So we have, last week, I don't know if we touched on this on our last episodes, I forget, but the U.S. or I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia went off the petrodollar, right? That just happened last week. And
50-year anniversary.
Yep. And so 80 years, the U.S. has been the leading currency in the world, and now countries are starting to shut it down. So here you kind of have like this perfect storm. We have taken, okay, let me go back.
Yeah.
Between Russia and Ukraine, we made a deal with Ukraine that we were going to loan them another $50 billion. But it's not $50 billion of U.S. money. We took Russia's U.S. bonds and we seized them and we loaned them to Ukraine, right? And now the rest of the world is seeing this and saying, whoa. The U.S. has this much power. The world reserve currency could shut us down if they don't like what we're doing. And everybody doesn't want anything to do with it. At the same time, BRICS is now introducing a cashless, influence-free payment system that's supposed to go global. And so this is where policy is really starting to affect our monetary experiences because they're screwing
naivete as well. Why? Who in the right mind? And it's easy to drive with things already happening. but you kind of knew this 50-year deal that we made with, I believe, Saudi Arabia, to say that as long as they traded in oil, that it was a 50-year agreement. It expired last week. Now that they said pretty much, hey, it's been a great run, but we're not going to renew this agreement. And so in the year leading up to that, you got to be thinking about, what are the things that I'm going to do that are either going to serve as a catalyst or an inhibitor for the existing relationship to continue, because we've benefited as a country quite dramatically from that. And what we did was we said, hey, we're going to sanction you, Russia, in this particular this, and then use these dollars elsewhere. And so you're right. They got together with BRICS and said, we're going to get together, and hey, if we don't have this thing hanging over us, hanging over our head like a thundercloud about to rain every time, we're going to not only stop buying US treasuries, right? We're going to start buying gold as a potential world reserve currency. And we're going to start transitioning into relationships directly with all those other countries that I'm trying not to, India is one of them, for example. And I think there's 7 of them right now. And I just can't imagine a world in which that number doesn't continue to slowly grow to bigger numbers. Yes, some countries do not want to deal with sanctions, but damn, if you're already dealing with sanctions, what's the logical next step? You're going to find your workarounds.
Yeah. In all fairness, as you should. If you're a world reserve currency, in my personal opinion, it's not our job to be in everybody's business. It's not our job to jump in there. And we all know that the military industrial complex is an entire economy in itself. And it's one that's actually kept the U.S. afloat and operating fairly well, because let's face it, a lot of taxpayer dollars go to the military. And as somebody who served in 18 years, I just want to let you know, your money is not well spent. We blow it like you wouldn't believe. Like, we would get times they'd be like, hey, we just found an extra $20,000, spend it, or we're not going to get it again next year. And we would. Like, so I don't have faith that.
I'm not even going to ask how you would spend it, although I'm sure listeners want to know. Drop a note down below if you want to hear, and then we'll have Deanna personally.
I'll do a follow-up. I'm happy to tell you, though, because it's pretty interesting. Then I have some funny stories about things we spent money on, or money, or things that showed up that nobody had accountability of. You're like, okay.
I am not your legal advisor, but I would encourage you to take the 5th here. Plead the 5th.
Listen, we didn't do any. Here's the thing: it wasn't anything wrong. We didn't do anything wrong.
Enough.
There's nowhere that says that we can't do those things, and there's no paper trail to go back in. Trust me, it's a whole thing in itself. The point is, the U.S. is making some really bad decisions. And, like I said, we'll do a whole nother episode, the correlation between Bitcoin and the dollar. But as Bitcoin, or as the dollar, as the U.S. continues to make these policies that inhibit the dollar, you're going to start to see Bitcoin go up. Now, let's say that in the U.S., we have a complete change of leadership at the end of the year, and the policies go in place to where the dollar starts going up. You might see something different with Bitcoin. So these are where, policies, politics, and monetary systems all go in hand.
They matter to the all-time high that I'm after, which is why we're having more and more conversation about this.
Right.
And, as we try to keep you from incriminating yourself, which is what the 5th Amendment would otherwise do. I'm not saying that you did or didn't do anything. Let's take it back to one of your favorite people of all time in this space, a catalyst, CZ.
Yes,
right? And this episode is going to go a little bit longer. And if you believe that all the world's a stage, I found it quite ironic. Do you know which prison that CZ has been assigned to? We talked about this a few times, and we said we'd figure this out.
Is he hanging out with Ross Ulbricht?
I don't even know where Ross is, but
I heard he was in Colorado.
Okay, well, if he's in Colorado, I can here to confirm that CZ is now reported to a low security California prison. And I thought, of all the places in the U.S., Cali. Going back to Cali, I thought for sure this had like a kind of a New York vibe to it, but turns out that's not the case. And then from the All the World's a Stage file, I want to go ahead and share this with you. The person who has come together to set up this blockchain council is Congressman Ro Khanna. Now, check out where he's from. Can you see it over there?
It's California, 17th District of California. Is that Santa Barbara too? Isn't Santa Barbara like wine country? Did they literally send him to jail in wine country?
They wouldn't shock me for Ro and CZ to be sitting down over a glass of wine, preparing docs before they go sit and discuss in July with President Biden. And, you know, I'll just say this, and this episode seems like it's going to be a little bit longer. Do you reasonably think that they're going to be talking about crypto on the debate in June that's scheduled?
Ooh, I do.
So it
I
seems
do.
this might be a little bit late is where I'm going with this in terms of
Yeah.
this little summit that they're going to have. And I say little, and I don't mean little because it's really a big deal.
Yeah.
It'll definitely move the market. And as I look, I want to share with you how far apart, since you asked, I was one step ahead. It's hard to stay one step ahead of Deanna. But today, I believe I met the mark because it's 3 hours away. I mean, for people in Texas, that's a car drive between Dallas and Houston. So, as you know, that's not a plane flight. That's more like a car drive kind of thing. And if you want to get together, you certainly can.
I mean,
And then
what
looking
do
at
you think the chances are a congressman is taking a car, driving a car? I bet he's probably flying private, you know what I mean, little helicopter somewhere. I mean, it's California. I'm sure they just have him on standby.
Well, yeah, and it is Silicon Valley. I mean, we all know the company from Cupertino, right?
Yeah.
Apple. I'm not, and I have no connections with Apple here, but you just start thinking about the implications of having a way to get Apple Pay or Google Pay involved in the conversation to provide sustainable, deliverable information on a financial level. It's all the world's a stage. I'm gluing together a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of conjecture here, but I'm not saying that I'm not over the target. What's your take on all this?
No, I mean, I think it's interesting to point out. I would love if the two of them got together. I love to see the propelment of, you know, the actually U.S. people taking interest. Congressman, I love that Mark Cuban is leading it. You know, he's always been a big proponent. I believe at one point he was going to make crypto payments for the Mavericks. That he was
Dogecoin. He was going to accept Dogecoin. He was.
There you go. Of all the crypto, right? Of course.
Of all the one, I know. What's he doing?
So he was going to accept crypto. He's been in it since the beginning. He's been into NFTs. So I love that he's leading the charge. I love that knowledgeable people are leading the charge. I hate it when people who don't know get in there and they're like, oh, you know, like Janet Yellen, you know, I don't know why she's talking anything crypto, but you have these people who are actually knowledgeable, getting in there, taking control, leading the race. And again, I think these are the things that are going to propel us to that all-time high.
Well, yeah, and I think Cuban has rightly said, and we started with it at the beginning of the show, that the issue may not be the leader, and as I kind of believe, it's the people that feed. It's that you've got Gary Gensler overseeing the SEC, and he is knowledgeable. He did instruct a course in blockchain at MIT, and he is here to protect the bankers.
He supported FTX. I mean, I know we're saying Gensler's knowledgeable, but he supported, like, the go-to guys for Gensler are in jail. So
no. I think he facilitated it. I'll take it one step further, and I think he's corrupt in his relationship with the parents. We've shown the charts. We've shown the detail. I mean, I think he's got a day of reckoning coming at some point. I mean, if they choose now, I know the mainstream media and other elements have a tendency to ignore things that they don't want to talk about, or candidly that don't drive ratings. But he may or may not have a day of reckoning up ahead. Yeah. And it isn't whether or not he's going to be in the chair. I mean, but even do you think he wants to do 4 more years of this? I mean, he's probably wishing, hoping, praying that because he's done the bidding of whoever his masters are, that at some point he's paid all this political capital. And if the Democrats are reelected in the presidential office, isn't he hoping for Janet Yellen's job or some kind of bigger influence, which scares the hell out of me, right?
Oh, for sure.
It does.
For sure. I mean,
honestly, I wanted to share this.
If we change leadership and they clean house, I'm not mad about it. Just saying. Right.
And I think that's what most people are hoping, but him getting promoted, if he gets promoted, I'm taking not financial advice, do your own research, but I'm taking my capital out of crypto, putting it into JP Morgan, not cash wise, but just as a stock, because they're going to continue to protect that moat for another 4 years. I can't tell you what's going to happen to the US as a world reserve currency. I mean, that scares the hell out of me. But I want to share this also with you and the users. Binance is looking at growing the space. They are saying that they've reached 200 million users. They have 100 billion in assets under custody. And I think the real thing is the growth rate here and the trajectory. I'm saying to you that there are 8 billion people in the US, and really I want this number to continue to grow. They basically had approximately 130 million users in 2022. They're up to 170 in 2023. And now in 2024, only halfway in, they've added 30 million more, and we've got 200 million. They say their goal is to add and get to 300 million users by 2026. But it's that kind of thinking that's going to help propel us forward.
Yeah, I actually, I know the director of Binance, not CZ, another guy that just got appointed as the director of Binance, and he's a go-getter, and I have no doubt that he's going to get them there. And this is the thing about people in crypto. So there's two things I want to say, because I know we're running a little late today. So one, crypto is filled with innovative. I always say during COVID, when everybody was locked down, we were innovating, we were creating, we were building. We weren't succumbing to whatever the fear was. We were like, okay, when this is over, we want to have amazing thing afterwards. And that's what the crypto community did. The other thing is, we have a great saying in crypto, and it's, you buy Bitcoin to have more dollars, I buy Bitcoin to have less.
And when you understand the difference between the numerator and the denominator and the pressure that's being placed on the US as the world reserve currency status, and all the working capital that has been tied up by these countries are starting to liquidate into gold, just means there's going to be more liquidity sloshing around, more dollars available, and there are inflationary consequences to that particular dynamic. And so my biggest fear is that we don't really have a game plan right now, or at least one I've heard articulated by Yellen or Biden, or even and you know what? I think Gensler could come up with it, but you're right. If you watch Raoul Pal, he says, let's not F this up, because right now having, again, not financial advice, but depending upon where your assets are allocated is going to determine the return on the asset. And mathematically, the odds are stacked and stacking sats, but up to you. You do what you're going to do.
Stacking sats. Yeah, that's great. Maybe that should have been the name of the show.
Maybe that is the name of the show. Look, Brianna, another great episode. Yes. Thanks for all your insight and intelligence here on All Time High. I'm going to go stack some sats.
Bye, you guys.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got